Welcome everybody to this Security Speakeasy show where we talk about all things security. We all know cloud-based applications are fundamental to every organization, but the massive growth of SaaS applications have introduced a number of challenges. It's around managing and security these applications and the corporate data as well that is shared through these applications. My name is Carmine Clementelli. I'm from the product marketing team at Palo Alto Networks. We're here with Ben Yang from the CASB product management team to join us today. In this episode of Security Speakeasy, we will talk about all the key considerations to keep in mind when securing SaaS applications in your organization. Thank you, Ben, for joining us today.
Carmine, thank you for having me here.
Yeah, you're welcome. So Ben, to begin, what are some of the key challenges that you can tell us and the things that you can share that customers should take into consideration when it comes down to securing SaaS applications?
Yeah, Carmine. So I've been in the industry in a while, and so one of the biggest challenges, or I think one of the most fascinating things about SaaS security is that the landscape is constantly changing, right? Because of the global pandemic, there's more work from home. We're seeing more and more SaaS applications. So the net of it is that it's constantly changing rather drastically in some senses year over year, right? And it's constantly evolving. However, what customers really want to focus on is understand overall what is their application risk related to these SaaS applications. And there's actually really three elements that customers really want to focus on, okay? The first is they want to focus on whether or not the application is inherently risky or not. And so we call that an application risk. The second item that they really want to focus on is the data, right? Look, if there's no sensitive data or no important data going through these applications, it's probably less of a concern, but the data is what's really important. So you really want to focus on understand how much of data risk these applications or the use of these applications is generating for your organization from a risk exposure perspective. And the last thing I always love is users, right? So if you have data and you have applications, they don't move by themselves, right? You need the user. The user is going to do something. And so it's really about user behavior, right? Whether or not your users are engaged in risky behavior or not risky behavior. So those are the three key elements. And just to scratch a little bit more underneath the surface a little bit, on the application side, what you really want to know is inherently, is it a reputable application, right? Do they do best practices for hosting it, right? Do they comply to SOC 2 standards, for example? Do they have the right security and privacy controls, right? Do they make it clear in terms of what their data on retention is or the backup policies, for example, right? Do they have, strong encryption? Do they support SAML or SSL, right? So all of those, factor into what I would consider as application risk, right? To say whether or not it's a secure app or it's two guys in a warehouse somewhere with a couple of servers that's fly by night, right? Which is very risky because you don't know what's going to happen once your users are using that application. The data, very simple, right? It goes back to, is it sensitive data? Is it Ben's grocery list for the weekend? Or is Ben, for example, putting a customer list, or I'm putting financial data pre-released into the SaaS application, right? Which is then, subject to, unknown risks out there, right? Because it's not behind the perimeter of your network anymore. You don't have any more control. And last but not least is really the users, right? To be candid, most of the time, most users probably don't understand what is good, safe security practice. So a lot of times it's about education, but you will occasionally find people that are just, flagrant violators, right? Where you tell them not to do something, they continue to do it. Or in some cases, you have malicious users, right? And you want to make sure that how do you monitor these users, identify it, so that you can actually take the right actions to reduce your exposure from their activities, Carmine. So the good news is that these are all solvable, but these are all the key things that users should keep in mind, or organizations should keep in mind as they think about SaaS security.
Yeah, it makes sense, Ben. I think every organization is going through this, cloud application adoption, actually more and more adoption especially through this pandemic,
Oh, yeah.
to address the new needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's rather shocking. We meet with customers all the time. And so a couple of years ago, when we talked to customers and said, look, how many applications your organizations are using? I would maybe have just a few that would be like over 100. Now I've got guys that are saying, hey, yeah, I'm cresting 600. Think about it, in 2 years. That's a huge leap, Carmine.
Yeah, definitely. So Ben, what's your guidance right now in terms of where organizations should start if they want to secure these SaaS applications?
Okay. I've got 2 points of advice for organizations. Look, if a compelling event has occurred, and I'm not going to hypothesize what it might be, but if a compelling event has occurred, you should probably be reacting right away and solving and plugging that hole. But let me take a step back though. But for the majority of organizations out there, they probably have an idea that, look, there is a lot of application risk. They're trying to quantify it. They're trying to figure out a plan to reduce that risk. And so what I would start before you start implementing a bunch of security controls to lock things down, you really need to understand where your organization is, right? You need to benchmark your organization to understand what are the risky applications, what are the risky users, what type of data is going through these applications. Once you have that view, then what you can do, once you have that visibility, is then you can go and start doing enforcement, right? And there's different ways. A good, I would say, CASB solution or SaaS security solution is going to allow you to do enforcement in line, so that not only can you, restrict and control activity to unsanctioned or tolerated applications, but you can have that visibility, right, to tens of thousands of applications. And obviously, you also want a CASB solution that can actually reach out and do a deep level historical scanning, discovery of assets that you currently are storing in your sanctioned SaaS applications. Because, I'm sure you're probably, if you're a compliance officer, you probably have questions of, hey, for example, am I storing PCI information in a Google Drive or Office 365 or OneDrive, right? And you need to be able to answer those questions. And so a good CASB solution is going to give you all the controls, right? Both on the discovery and compliance side, which we call API, as well as being able to identify real-time activity and being able to do enforcement on it, right? Carmine. So yep. I think those are all the critical elements, I would say, that organization can use to start.
No, I would agree with that, Ben. It's great information. And well, I want to thank you very much. I think every organization will benefit from the insights that you share with us today. So thanks, Ben, for joining us at Security Speakeasy to talk about key considerations around securing SaaS applications in the enterprise. And thanks everyone for watching. If you like the show, click the like button, subscribe to this channel, and visit PaloAltoNetworks.com to learn more about our innovative CASB solution.